I didn't find out my husband had a second phone because I snooped. I found out because our 6-year-old tried to be helpful. It was a Saturday morning, the kind where the house smells like pancakes and laundry detergent, and you almost believe you're safe. Our son, Leo, was in the hallway dragging a little plastic stool like he was moving furniture for a renovation show. "Mom!" he shouted. "Dad's secret phone is ringing again." I froze with a plate in my hands. "What did you say?" Leo ran into the kitchen, proud of himself. "His secret phone. The one he keeps in the garage. It's always buzzing in the blue box." The plate slipped in my hands and clinked against the counter. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy, because the only people who have secret phones are teenagers and liars. And my husband is 34. My name is Mara, 32F. I'm a paralegal, which means I've spent years watching other people's lives fall apart in neat stacks of paperwork. I've seen affairs, hidden debt, fake identities, families who smile in court and then spit poison in the parking lot. I used to come home from work, hug my husband, and think, at least my life is normal. I was wrong. My husband Evan, 34M, and I have been together 9 years, married for 7. We live in a modest house, in a quiet neighborhood where people wave at each other and pretend they don't hear the arguments through thin walls. We have 2 kids, Leo, 6, and our daughter Sophie, 3, who has a laugh that could melt steel and a talent for finding permanent markers when you're not looking. Evan is the kind of guy everyone likes. He's charming without trying, helpful in public, the dad who carries extra snacks, the husband who opens doors. He works in sales, which means his phone is always in his hand and he's always following up with someone. For most of our marriage, I trusted him. Not blindly, just normally. Like you trust someone you built a life with. And if I'm being honest, I was proud of our relationship. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. We handled bills. We handled kids. We handled stress. Or at least I thought we did. The little weird thing started about a year ago. Evan began taking calls in the garage. Not in a casual way. In that deliberate, I'm stepping away way. He'd grab his phone, glance at me, and say, "Work," like it explained everything. He started putting his phone face down on every surface, like it was a habit. He'd take it into the bathroom. He'd shower with music on, loud enough that I couldn't hear if it buzzed. He also started being nicer. Not romantic nice, guilty nice. Random flowers, sudden compliments. "You're doing such a great job, babe." Extra help with bedtime. He'd kiss my forehead and then look away. It sounds good on paper. In real life, it felt like a performance. I asked him once, casually, "Everything okay with work?" He smiled too quickly. "Yep, why?" I shrugged. "You've been busy." Evan kissed my cheek. "Just trying to provide. You know I love you." And I let it go because I wanted to be the kind of wife who trusts, not the kind who suspects. Then the garage thing intensified. We have an attached garage with shelves full of kids' bikes, a toolbox, holiday decorations, and a big plastic storage bin. We call the donation box because it's where clothes go to die. Evan started spending more time out there. He'd say he was organizing, but nothing ever looked more organized. He'd be out there late in the dark, and when I opened the door to ask if he wanted dinner, he'd jump like I'd caught him doing something illegal. One night, I made a joke. Light teasing. "Are you building a spaceship out there?" Evan's laugh sounded wrong. "No, just checking emails." Checking emails in the dark, in the garage. Sure, but still I didn't push. Because pushing means admitting you think you might be right. And I wasn't ready for that. Then came that Saturday. Leo's voice in the kitchen. "Dad's secret phone is ringing again." "Again?" he'd said. Like this was normal. I tried to keep my face calm because kids notice everything. "Leo," I said carefully, "what do you mean secret phone?" He pointed toward the garage door. "It's in the blue box on the shelf. I hear it when I get my soccer ball. It rings and rings. Sometimes Dad goes and talks quiet." My whole body went cold. I forced my voice to stay gentle. Okay, buddy. Thank you for telling me. Can you go play with Sophie? Leo ran off, happy to be helpful. I stood there, staring at the garage door like it was a mouth about to swallow me. Then my phone buzzed. Evan texting from the living room where he was watching cartoons with the kids. Evan, you okay? You got quiet. My hand shook. I texted back. Me. Yep. Then I did something I'd never done in our marriage. I waited until Evan went upstairs to grab something, and I walked into the garage. The air was colder than the house. It smelled like oil and cardboard. I knew exactly where Leo meant because we only had one blue box like that. An old shoe box tucked behind paint cans on the top shelf. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat as I pulled it down. Inside was a phone. Not old, not broken, not a spare. A smartphone, charged, on. The screen lit up immediately with a notification. A name I didn't recognize. Jules. And underneath it, miss you. Pick up. I stared at the heart emoji like it was a physical object. My first thought was stupidly hopeful. Maybe it's a coworker joke. My second thought was, who uses heart emojis for work? My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I looked at the call log. Dozens of calls. Mostly late at night, early mornings. During times Evan told me he was in meetings. Then I opened messages, and that's when my vision blurred. Because it wasn't flirtation. It was intimacy. It was, I love you. It was, I can't wait until we're not sneaking. It was, did she buy it? It was photos. Not explicit, but enough. Hotel mirrors, a hand on a thigh, a glass of wine with 2 place settings, his watch visible in the corner of one shot. My stomach turned. I leaned against the workbench because my legs went weak. In the house, I heard Leo laughing at the TV, the sound of my child being happy while my marriage collapsed in silence. I remember thinking, I can't do this here. Not with them in the next room. Not with pancakes still on the counter like a joke. I put the phone back in the box exactly how it was, like if I disturbed it too much, the truth would explode. Then I walked back into the kitchen and washed the same plate 3 times. When Evan came downstairs, he kissed my cheek and said, "Smells amazing." I smiled, I don't know how. But I did, because sometimes shock makes you act like an actress in your own life. All day, I watched him. I noticed things I'd ignored. How he checked his pockets when he thought no one was looking. How he disappeared to the garage twice. How he kept his real phone glued to his hand like a shield. That night, after the kids were asleep, Evan sat on the couch and turned on a show, like nothing was wrong. I sat beside him and felt my heart beating in my ears. "Can I ask you something?" I said, voice too calm. Evan glanced at me. "Sure." I stared at his face, trying to find the man I married. "Do you have another phone?" Evan didn't even blink at first. Then his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "No," he said quickly. The lie was immediate, clean. And that hurt worse than the phone itself, and because it meant he'd been practicing. I nodded like I believed him, stood up and said, "Okay." Evan watched me, suspicious. "Why would you ask that?" I turned to him with the calmest voice I've ever heard come out of me. "Because Leo told me." Evan froze. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. I watched the panic crawl across his face in real time. What?" Evan whispered. I felt something hard settle inside me. "He said your secret phone rings in the garage. The one in the blue box." Evan's face went pale. "Mara." "Don't," I said softly. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. Evan stood up, hands raised like I was holding a weapon. "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. That sentence is so cliche it should come with a soundtrack. "What is it then?" I asked, voice shaking now. "Because it has hearts in the contact name, it has hotel photos, it has, 'I love you.'" Evan's eyes widened. "You looked through it?" I stared at him. "That's your focus?" Evan ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "Mara, listen." It started when you were distant. I felt my whole body flare with anger. I was distant. I was raising our kids while you were hiding a second phone like a teenager. Evan's voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to happen, I said, cold, but you meant to keep doing it. He tried to step closer. I stepped back automatically. Evan whispered, I love you. I felt tears burn. Don't say that. He looked desperate. It's true. I shook my head, laughing through tears. No, you love what I do for you. You love the house I keep running while you go to hotels. Evan's face twisted. I swear it was just emotional. I stared at him. Then why are there hotel photos? Silence. That silence was loud. It was confession without words. I sat down on the chair across from him because my legs couldn't hold me anymore. My hands were shaking. What did you think would happen? I whispered. Evan sat on the couch like he'd shrunk. I didn't think it would go this far. I swallowed, voice rough. You named her Jules with a heart. Evan's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to lose you. I looked at him exhausted. So you chose the one thing that guarantees you lose me. He shook his head. I'll stop. I'll delete it. I'll do anything. I stared at him and realized something that made me feel sick. He wasn't sorry he did it. He was sorry he got caught. And our son caught him. That detail felt like acid in my chest. Leo, sweet, innocent, trying to help, had been walking past Betrayal in the garage like it was just another box of old toys. I whispered, How long? Evan hesitated. I said sharper, How long, Evan? His voice was tiny. 8 months. 8 months. That's almost an entire pregnancy. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I stood up slowly. Okay. Evan looked relieved for half a second, like okay meant I was going to forgive him. Then I said, Get out. His face fell. Mara, not forever, I clarified, voice shaking but firm. Not legally. Not yet, but tonight. You're not sleeping here. Evan's eyes widened. Where am I supposed to go? I stared at him. Call Jules. The cruelty in my voice surprised even me, but I didn't take it back. Evan flinched like I'd slapped him. Mara, please, think of the kids. My hands clenched. I am thinking of the kids. That's why you're leaving. Because I will not have them watch me swallow this. Evan's face twisted. I made a mistake. I laughed bitterly. A mistake is forgetting milk. You built a secret life with a second phone. Evan started crying then. Real tears. But I'd seen him cry before. At movies, at his grandmother's funeral. Those tears felt different. Those tears felt like consequences. I didn't comfort him. I walked to the garage, pulled the blue box down, and brought the phone inside. Evan's eyes widened. Don't, I held it out to him. Take it, and take your stuff, and go. He stared at me, shaking. Are you really doing this? I whispered. You already did it. Evan left that night with a duffel bag and a face like he couldn't believe he'd finally hit the wall. When the door closed, I stood there for a long time in silence, listening to the house breathe. Then I went upstairs and stood in the doorway of Leo's room. He was sleeping with his mouth slightly open, one arm wrapped around a stuffed dinosaur. Completely unaware. My chest hurt so badly I thought I might collapse, because the betrayal wasn't just in my marriage. It was in my kid's home, and Evan had brought it inside like dirt on his shoes. The next morning, I didn't tell the kids. Daddy cheated. I said, Daddy is staying somewhere else for a little bit. Leo frowned. Why? I swallowed hard. Because Mom and Dad have grown-up problems. Leo nodded like he accepted it, then said casually, Is it because of the secret phone? My stomach dropped. Shh, I whispered, forcing a smile. Not right now. Leo went back to his cereal. I realized then that kids know more than we think. They see patterns. They hear quiet fights. They feel tension like weather. That day I called my sister and asked if she could take the kids for a few hours. When she arrived, she saw my face and didn't ask questions. She just hugged me hard. When the kids left, I sat at my kitchen table and did what I do for a living. I started making a plan. I printed bank statements. I looked at credit cards. I checked hotel charges. I took screenshots of the messages on the secret phone and emailed them to myself. Not because I wanted revenge, because I knew how stories get rewritten when you don't have proof. By evening, Evan was texting. Evan, please talk to me. Evan, I'll do therapy. Evan, I'll do anything. Evan, don't do this to our family. I stared at, don't do this, and felt anger flare again, like I was the one detonating the marriage, like he hadn't been living a double life while I packed lunches and folded tiny socks. I replied once, me. I'm not doing anything. I'm responding to what you did. Then I turned my phone off. 2 weeks later, Evan wanted to meet and talk. We met at a coffee shop because I refused to be alone with him in our house. Not because I thought he'd hurt me physically, but because I couldn't trust him emotionally. And once trust breaks, everything becomes unsafe. Evan looked wrecked. He hadn't shaved. His eyes were red. He slid into the booth and immediately started talking like he'd rehearsed. I ended it, he said. I blocked her. I deleted the phone. I stared at him. You deleted evidence. Evan flinched. I wasn't thinking. I sipped my coffee to keep my hands from shaking. You weren't thinking for 8 months. Evan's eyes filled. I was unhappy. I felt my throat tighten. So was I. Do you know what I did when I was unhappy? I told you. I asked for help. I didn't hide a second phone in a box. Evan whispered, I'm sorry. I watched him carefully. Why did you do it? Evan hesitated, then said, because she made me feel wanted. I blinked. And I didn't? Evan shook his head quickly. No, you did, but it was different. It was easy. Easy. That word made my stomach twist. Of course it was easy. It was fantasy. No bills, no bedtime, no sick kids, no dishes. I leaned forward. So, you chose easy over real. Evan started crying again. I didn't want to lose you. I said quietly, then you should have protected us. He stared at me, trembling. Is there any chance? And there it was. The question I'd been avoiding because it felt like swallowing glass. I took a breath. I don't know yet. Evan looked desperate. What can I do? I stared at him and said the truth. You can stop making me carry your guilt. Evan blinked. What? I said, voice shaking. You keep saying you're sorry, but you're still asking me to comfort you. You're still asking me to tell you it'll be okay. And I can't. Not right now, because I'm still the one waking up and realizing my whole life was a lie. Evan's shoulders collapsed. I added, and you can stop letting our children discover secrets for you. Evan flinched like I'd hit him with a brick. Good, because he needed to feel that. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in the garage with the blue box in my lap, staring at it like it was radioactive. I thought about throwing it away. I thought about smashing the phone. I thought about burning the whole garage down, metaphorically. Instead, I opened the box and took the phone out one last time, not to read messages, to look at the reflection in the black screen. I looked tired, older, like someone who'd been holding up a house by herself without realizing the foundation was cracked. And I whispered, out loud, into the silence, I'm not going to beg to be loved. Because that's what betrayal does. It makes you want to bargain your dignity for certainty. I didn't want that life. I wanted a life where my kids didn't learn that lying is normal, where my son didn't carry secret phone knowledge like it's just another household detail. So, I made a decision. I booked a therapist for me. Not for us, for me. I called a lawyer, not to attack, but to understand my options. And I told Evan, in writing, that any reconciliation would require full transparency, individual therapy, couples therapy, and time. No rushing, no guilt, no think of the kids manipulation. Because thinking of the kids is exactly why I refuse to pretend The hardest part wasn't Evan leaving. It wasn't the phone. It wasn't even the hotel photos. The hardest part was the quiet moments when I caught myself reaching for my phone to text him something normal, like we're out of milk, and then remembering that normal was built on lies, remembering that the man who kissed my forehead every morning could also hide a second life inches away from our kids' toys. I'm still in the middle of it. I won't pretend I have a clean ending, but I do have one thing I didn't have before: clarity. When my son said secret phone, I realized my marriage wasn't just in trouble, it was contaminated. And whatever I choose next, divorce or rebuilding, I'm choosing it with my eyes open. Because the version of me who would swallow betrayal to keep peace, she died in the garage holding that blue box, and I'm not bringing her back.